1 in 5 adults in the United States has lived through a traumatic event. Many carry the invisible wounds of this trauma. What we often don't realize is how these wounds can pass down through generations. Like echoes of the past, they reverberate in the lives of children and grandchildren, shaping their mental and emotional well-being. This is the heavy legacy of generational trauma. It's a global phenomenon, touching families from all walks of life. Imagine a child growing up with a parent who survived a war. The parent might be distant, easily startled, or struggle to show affection. They learned to survive by suppressing emotions and staying hypervigilant. These behaviors, while understandable, can be confusing and even frightening for a child. The child may grow up feeling unsafe or unloved even if the parent is trying their best. This is one way trauma can be passed down, not through genes, but through learned behaviors and emotional patterns. These echoes of trauma don't always manifest in obvious ways. Sometimes they show up as anxiety, depression, or difficulty forming healthy relationships. Children might struggle in school, have trouble controlling their emotions, or engage in risky behaviors. They may not even be aware of the root cause of their struggles, but the past casts a long shadow. Understanding generational trauma is crucial to breaking these cycles and fostering healthier, more resilient individuals and families. Historical events, both large and small, leave their mark on families. Wars, genocide, natural disasters, and political upheaval can create collective trauma that ripples through communities for generations. These events shatter a sense of safety and security, leaving individuals and families with deep emotional scars. The Holocaust, for example, continues to affect the children and grandchildren of survivors, shaping their views on family, identity, and the world around them. Family dynamics play a significant role in how trauma is transmitted. Children are like sponges, absorbing the emotional atmosphere of their family environment. If parents or caregivers haven't dealt with their own trauma, they may unknowingly pass on unhealthy coping mechanisms or emotional patterns to their children. This can create a cycle of trauma that repeats itself across generations. It's not just about the big events, though. Everyday experiences of racism, discrimination, poverty, or domestic violence can also create trauma that echoes through families. For example, families of color who have faced systemic racism and oppression may pass down feelings of anger, distrust, or fear to their children. These feelings are a natural response to injustice, but they can also lead to negative outcomes if not addressed in a healthy way. Cultures around the world have developed unique ways of understanding and addressing trauma. In some indigenous cultures, for example, trauma is seen as a spiritual wound that affects the entire community. Healing often involves traditional ceremonies, storytelling, and connecting with elders for guidance. These practices recognize the importance of community support and the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit. In Western cultures, there's been a growing emphasis on therapy and mental health treatment as a way to address trauma. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, and other evidence-based therapies can help individuals process traumatic memories, manage their symptoms, and develop healthier coping mechanisms. However, access to mental health care remains a challenge for many people due to stigma, cost, or a lack of available providers. It's important to note that no single approach to healing is universally effective. What works for one person or family may not work for another. It's crucial to find approaches that resonate with an individual's cultural background, beliefs, and personal experiences. This might involve a combination of traditional healing practices, therapy, support groups, or other forms of self-care. Resilience, the antidote to trauma. Despite the challenges of generational trauma, there is always hope. Human beings are incredibly resilient, and we have an innate capacity for healing and growth. Resilience doesn't mean ignoring or minimizing the pain of the past. It's about acknowledging the impact of trauma, while also recognizing our own strength and ability to move forward in positive ways. Building resilience involves developing coping mechanisms that help us manage stress, regulate our emotions, and build healthy relationships. This might include practicing mindfulness, engaging in creative expression, connecting with nature, or seeking support from loved ones. It's about finding what works for us as individuals and building a toolkit of resources we can draw on during difficult times. Resilience is also about challenging negative beliefs and thought patterns that keep us stuck in cycles of trauma. This might involve reframing our understanding of the past, practicing self-compassion, or seeking professional guidance to address deep-seated emotional wounds. It's about believing in our own ability to heal and create a better future for ourselves and our families. Healing from trauma is not a solitary endeavor. It requires connection, support, and a sense of belonging. Community plays a vital role in breaking down stigma, providing a safe space for sharing and healing, and fostering a sense of collective resilience. Support groups, for example, offer a place for individuals to connect with others who have experienced similar traumas. Sharing stories and experiences can help people feel less alone, reduce shame, and learn from one another's coping strategies. These groups can be particularly helpful for individuals who may not have supportive families or who feel uncomfortable discussing their trauma with loved ones. Communities can also promote healing by creating a culture of empathy, understanding, and support for those who have experienced trauma. This might involve educating people about the impact of trauma, advocating for policies that support mental health care, or simply being more mindful of the language we use when discussing sensitive topics. When communities come together to create a safety net of support, it can make a world of difference in the lives of those who are struggling. Generational trauma is a complex issue with far-reaching consequences, but it's not an insurmountable one. By understanding the ways in which trauma is transmitted, we can begin to break the cycle and create a healthier future for ourselves and generations to come. This requires a multifaceted approach that addresses both individual and systemic factors. On an individual level, we can start by acknowledging our own experiences with trauma and seeking help if needed. We can also educate ourselves about the impact of trauma on children and families, so we can better support the young people in our lives. By modeling resilience, self-care, and healthy coping mechanisms, we can help break the cycle of trauma and create a more positive legacy for future generations. On a societal level, we need to create systems and structures that support healing and well-being. This includes advocating for accessible and affordable mental health care, addressing systemic inequalities that contribute to trauma, and creating trauma-informed schools and communities. By working together to create a more just and equitable world, we can help prevent trauma and promote healing for all.